What's up, YouTube? In case y'all don't know, this is just me. On my new channel. Well, it's not really a new channel. It's a channel I started like some odd years ago. I made this video titled that Vince McMahon is not racist. And that's me, my opinion as a black man. And ignore the Spider-Man video that I put up there. That was a school project that I had to do. We had to do a video on digital rhetoric, so I decided to do that one instead. But this video right here is by Tap Out. So if you're not familiar with Tap Out, check out Tap Out Corner, and check out Tap Out Corner. They got a lot of good videos, and me being I'm not gonna say a bodybuilder, but me being a power lifter myself, who is actually natural. I've never taken any steroids or anything of that nature. But this video is called 100% without a doubt wrestlers who are obviously on steroids. Alright, so let's give it a play.
This is what Chris Masters looked like during his first run in WWE, and here's what he looked like 3 months later. I think we all know what was happening here. Triple H certainly knew.
So, when are you gonna write a book?
That's funny. You know, as a matter of fact, I was thinking about writing a book on nutrition.
What are you gonna call it? How to lose 50 pounds in 4 weeks?
Well, not remember.
See, it's funny that Triple H say that when that dude is so obviously clearly juiced up. It doesn't make any sense for him to even say something like that to somebody else. Is ridiculous. We all know Triple H is juiced to the gills. That motherfucker is juiced. Okay, we all know Triple H is juiced to the gills. Anyways, let's continue.
As well, due to his short WWE career, Ahmed Johnson had one of the best wrestling physiques, not just at the time, but of all time. This was due to Johnson's hard work in the gym and genetics, but also due to steroids. As Johnson himself has said, it was something that you had to do, basically, if you were going to stay up top. Just about all the boys were on it. This became more obvious after Johnson left WWE. In early 2000, Johnson debuted in WCW under the name Big T. Besides the name change, the other noticeable difference was Ahmed Johnson's physique. He wasn't as jacked as he was in WWE, and this would become more apparent as his career continued. As time went on, Johnson lost his muscle mass and gained more weight until finally quitting the wrestling business. Today, Johnson is almost unrecognizable from when he was on steroids in WWE. Now this next one is really sad, and it shows how steroids can lead to a premature death. After spending several months toiling around in WCW, Eddie Guerrero made the jump to WWE.
In case y'all don't know, my Wrestlemaniacs out there, this is Wrestlemaniac Talks. In case y'all don't know, well, I'm pretty sure y'all don't know, but me throwing this out there, Eddie Guerrero is 100% without a doubt my favorite wrestler of all time. I like him because he had the charisma, he was great in the ring, and he was jacked as fuck. He was only 5'8", about 202 pounds. I think he was built at like 228 or something like that. I saw one of his, it was some odd years ago, I saw, I think it was a mugshot, and it said he was 250 pounds. I doubt he was ever 250 pounds, but Eddie was pretty big. And I always thought Eddie was something special. And the fact that Kevin Nash called him a vanilla midget just goes to show that Kevin Nash don't know shit about wrestling. Anyway, let's continue. And man, it still hurt me to this day that Eddie is not here, man. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Well, he actually is my favorite wrestler of all time. And then next, well, I'll make a video on my favorite wrestlers of all time, but right now, this video is just me talking about this right here. But yeah, Eddie was obviously very clearly on juice. If you watched him from his WCW days to his ECW days to his WWF days, then his WWF departure, then his return, like, he got swole. Eddie was swole.
While Guerrero was in great shape, he was now in the land of the giants. Whether it was people backstage telling Eddie he needed to get bigger, or it was Guerrero himself.
That's another dude. I can't never tell because, you know, he was in prison for a short period of time, but I'm pretty sure Booker T was juicing as well, along with his brother Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray was a specimen. Stevie Ray had a great look. Too bad he just wasn't nowhere near as good as Booker.
Felt he needed to bulk up is unknown. What is known is that Latino Heat began taking steroids once he arrived in WWE. Comparing his physique from when he debuted till before his death clearly shows just how much bigger he got. Making it even sadder is that Eddie Guerrero died almost 6 years after joining WWE due to an enlarged heart. While steroids weren't the sole reason for Eddie's passing, they did contribute to it. While it's more common for male wrestlers to use steroids, it's not unheard of for female wrestlers to use them too. While she hasn't stated that she uses steroids,
absolutely.
fans have speculated that Jordan Grace uses performance enhancers.
Obviously.
Well, she always
Listen, I've been a huge fan of Thick Mama Pump for quite some time. I seen her, I think maybe, I don't know, it was a long time ago. I seen Jordan Grace She was a lot thicker, much like they showing her right there. She had a very feminine voice. Now her voice is very deep, very masculine like. And she's fucking jacked. And I'm pretty sure her roided out, she's probably just as roided out as her husband. If y'all don't know who Jordan Grace's husband is, it's that little short fuck that always wear the fucking Davy Jones looking mask from Pirates of the Caribbean. I can't think of his name right now. But he's another guy who actually is pretty solid in the ring, really good. Jonathan Gresham, that's his name. Jonathan Gresham. He's a pretty solid wrestler. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he's juiced to the gills as well. If you don't know what Jonathan Gresham looked like, he's very jacked. He's probably about like 5'5", maybe 5'6", but he's fucking incredibly jacked. But he's not like giant jacked. He's probably he don't look like he even weigh more than 200 pounds. But if you see him, like, you're like, yeah, that guy's very clearly on something. And his wife got to be as well, especially with her joining bodybuilding competitions. So that's
At a bigger build, comparing her early days as a wrestler to what she looks like now is night and day. In addition to Grace's incredible transformation, fans have noticed something else about her that suggests she is on the juice.
Happy 9-year anniversary to Triple Threat Wrestling.
See, that's what I was just talking about, her voice. There it is.
Radio. Here's to another incredible 9 years. I wish you guys nothing but the best.
So I've been on the road the past 2 weeks. I was in Orlando like Sunday through, I think, Friday, and then we flew to Vegas, and now I'm actually in San Francisco.
The change in Jordan Grace's voice is another reason people speculate that Grace is using steroids, since increased testosterone levels can cause your voice to deepen. It's more noticeable on women since they don't produce as high of testosterone levels as men. From 2001 to 2005, Maven went from being a school teacher to a WWE wrestler as a result of winning the reality competition show Tough Enough. While Maven
was definitely juicing. I seen it on his channel. He said that he was juicing. When he left out, he was injured. When he came back, he was even. His physique was even better. He already had a pretty solid looking physique. You know, like he already looked good before. So if you ask me, in my opinion, I don't really think that he needed the juice, but he looked good. There are solid alternatives to the steroids that you can use, that you should use. I don't think steroids. I don't know. I'm a little iffy with steroids. You know, I personally, I wouldn't take them, and it's just too many side effects for me to even think about it. If it didn't have any side effects, hell yeah, I'd take them. I would do it. But they got way too many. So the answer is hell no. I wouldn't take a steroid. Man, just creatine, man, and good genetics go a long way. You know, like I'm 6 feet 295. My dad's probably like 250. My dad's got like these really giant forearms and like these good, nice 18-inch biceps. Me, on the other hand, I've got 23-inch biceps. And yes, I am very natural. I was born this way. I even had pictures from when I was little. And you can see that I was always really just built big like that. But anyways, enough about me. Let's get back to this video.
was in good shape, he revealed that he was encouraged backstage to use performance-enhancing drugs, and he followed that advice. In 2002, Maven was injured while wrestling a match and was gone for several months. When he returned, Maven was noticeably bigger. As he revealed on his YouTube channel, Maven used the assistance of steroids to bulk himself up.
I actually had one of the top officials come up to me, and he didn't outright say, hey, we're gonna need you to get on this. What he told me was, have you thought about talking to some of the boys about that creatine that they're on? I asked around, said, am I hearing what I think I'm hearing? They informed me, yes, you are. So at that point, I wanted to do the safest thing possible, but get the result they were looking for.
This becomes even more obvious when you compare Maven's appearance from his debut to his final years in WWE. Now, this next wrestler doesn't even look like the same person. Certain old school wrestling fans will be very familiar with Dynamite Kid. He's considered by many to be one of the best wrestlers of all time and influenced a lot of wrestling talent that came after him, particularly Chris Benoit. Dynamite Kid had a phenomenal physique, thanks in part to steroids, which he was introduced to early in his career.
I'm just saying, I know one's Canadian, one's British, one's American, the other one, well, obviously British, one's European, British, the other one's Canadian, American. I don't know. I don't know why. I understand this is Chris Benoit's idol, but the resemblance between the two, especially the body, the physique, is ridiculous. You know, they both had like almost the same exact body. You know, Chris Benoit was probably about 5'11" or so. He was built at 5'11". Personally, I think he was probably about 5'10", maybe 5'9". But yeah, man, Chris Benoit had a great physique, and so did Dynamite Kid.
One of the reasons Dynamite used steroids was to compensate for his small stature. Soon after, Dynamite Kid started getting opportunities with bigger companies, and eventually wrestled for WWE. However, this use of performance-enhancing drugs almost gave him an early death. In 1991, a doctor informed Dynamite Kid he had an enlarged heart due to Dynamite's steroid use. The doctor warned him continued steroid use could kill him, and Dynamite Kid never touched the juice again. Dynamite still continued to wrestle though, however, he looked nothing like he did before. Now this wrestler has denied taking steroids, but he shows the signs of someone who is on the juice. The wrestler I'm talking about is Jinder Mahal. During Mahal's first run in WWE from 2011 to 2014, he was in good shape, but he wasn't anything special. That suddenly changed when he returned in 2016. The modern day Maharaja was completely shredded and had completely transformed his body. While Jinder no doubt worked hard to get his physique, fans have pointed out that Mahal may have used some gear. His enlarged breast tissue could have been a sign of gynecomastia, a side effect of steroid use. Additionally, fans notice acne and pimples on Jinder's body, which steroids can cause. Jinder Mahal's former 3MB tag team partner, Drew McIntyre, also underwent a phenomenal transformation. Like Jinder, Drew was in good shape during his first WWE run, but McIntyre bulked up a lot upon his return. This has led fans to speculate that the Scottish Warrior helped himself out by using steroids. But
see, Drew McIntyre has always been one of those cases where I'm like, I don't know, because it wasn't like he just got that big overnight. When he got released, I watched him on the independent scenes and in TNA, and he was still a bit smaller. Yes, he was, but Drew looked like a guy who really just put in like the time and the work to get his body. Because when I seen him in like on the independent scenes before he went back to WWE, and I think 2018 or so, maybe I think he went back in 2018. But after when he got released, I watched a lot of his work. I watched his work in Impact with Bobby Lashley. They had some bangers there for the World Heavyweight Champion. And Drew, he was getting bigger. He was kind of flabby. I wouldn't say fat, but he was a little bit flabby. But it didn't look like the flabby, like off roids flabby. It wasn't like a Triple H flabby or a Batista flabby or a Brock flabby type. It looked like he just was. I don't want to say fat, but it looked like he hadn't been working out as much, but still pretty big. And Drew McIntyre is a case I can't never really tell with this guy. You know, normally it's easy to spot somebody who's been on roids and who hasn't. It's not always easy, because you look at guys like William Regal and Ted DiBiase, and you probably think they never took a steroid a day in their life, and they took a lot of steroids. But still, Drew McIntyre is always a special case to me, because I never really know for sure with this guy. Anyways.
It's not just WWE wrestlers who have used steroids. The former chairman of WWE, Vince McMahon, has gotten in on the action too. During the steroid trial of 1994, Vince McMahon admitted to using steroids before they were made illegal in 1990. Despite McMahon's claims, fans still wondered if McMahon was on the juice. Here's a good example. In 1998, Vince McMahon competed in his first wrestling match. Then, a little less than a year later, at the 1989 Royal Rumble, the WWE chairman looked like this. Mr. McMahon became a McUnit. As mentioned, the enlarged breast tissue can be a side effect of steroid use, which fueled speculation McMahon was using performance-enhancing drugs to help give him that amazing body. This next transformation was so shocking that people thought this wrestler had actually died. It's no secret that back in the 1980s, the majority of WWE wrestlers were on steroids. While probably not the healthiest thing, this was legal until 1990, when the Anabolic Steroid Control Act was passed. However, WWE and Vince McMahon were still accused of distributing steroids to their wrestlers, which led to the previously mentioned steroid trial of 1994. One of the biggest targets in the steroid case was Hulk Hogan. Despite having an unreal physique, the Hulkster denied that he used steroids.
But I've trained 20 years, 2 hours a day to look like I do. But the things that I am not is I'm not a steroid abuser, and I do not use steroids.
However, after this, Hogan would take a nearly year-long absence from WWE.
Lying ass, but really, let's be real, let's be honest. What is he supposed to do? Go out there on live TV and be like, yeah, I'm on juice? Come on, man. Come on. Like, come on, buddies. Like, come on. Really, come on.
When he returned, the Hulkster was noticeably slimmed down. I guess he stopped eating his vitamins and saying his prayers. However, the needle in the steroid coffin came in court. Hulk Hogan had to testify, and he admitted that he did use steroids. Hogan wasn't the only WWE wrestler who had changed though. In 1991, Ultimate Warrior abruptly left WWE after he and Vince McMahon got into arguments over money. The separation didn't last long, as Warrior returned at WrestleMania 8 about 7 months later. However, fans quickly noticed the Warrior had slimmed down. In addition,
actually, the Ultimate Warrior is a guy who Sting too. Those dudes were fucking huge. When I say huge, I mean like they were bigger than Hulk Hogan and probably just about any other wrestlers. And then they started wrestling because I remember I was watching Sting. I don't know if Sting name was still Sting, but I know that the Ultimate Warrior at that time was a tag team. I think he was going by the Dingo Warrior at that time, which is a weird ass fucking name. It's an Australian wild dog, a Dingo Warrior. That sounds fucking stupid. But anyways, yeah, so he's very obviously was on juice. But I don't know if anybody ever paid attention to the Ultimate Warrior, but if you look throughout his career, you'll see him get smaller and smaller and smaller as the time goes on. So
just some other changes. Rumors started going around that the Ultimate Warrior had died and the man who had returned was an imposter. These ended up being false, and the smaller physique was likely due to Ultimate Warrior getting off steroids. Brian Cage is called the Machine, and for good reason. I mean, just look at him. However, like all the wrestlers we've looked at, Cage's body looks a bit unnatural, and fans have questioned how Cage got all those muscles. Speculation was fueled even more when fans saw pictures and videos of Brian Cage from earlier in his wrestling career. Saying it's an incredible transformation is an understatement. Brian Cage hasn't said much about performance enhancers, so it's all speculation. Now, before diving into this next wrestler, he's never said he's taken steroids, but there's evidence that suggests that he has. The man I'm talking about is the Game, Triple H. The King of Kane started bodybuilding at the age of 14, simply because he wanted to start looking like a wrestler. It definitely worked out for him, as Triple H's body was almost unmatched during the Attitude Era. However, questions about steroids quickly came up. Some evidence that Triple H could have been on the juice was seen live on TV. From late 2003 to mid 2004, Triple H noticeably had a less defined body. Around this time, Triple H had gotten married to Stephanie McMahon, and rumor has it that the two were trying to have a baby. Steroids affect a man's sperm production and fertility, so fans have speculated Triple H was off the gear, leading to a change in his body. A backstage story also suggests that the King of Kings was on something. According to reports, when Scott Steiner arrived in WWE, officials asked him to take a drug test. Steiner said he would, as long as Triple H did too. Mysteriously, Steiner didn't get asked to take any more drug tests. Speaking of Scott Steiner, Big Papa Pump has a massive scar on the side of his body. To find out how he got it, watch this video.
Alright, on my Wrestlemaniacs, that was my first upload in God knows how long on my new wrestling channel called Wrestlemaniac Talks. This is my first video in a very long time. So I hope you watch it. I hope you enjoy everything. I hope we talk about stuff. All right.